All right. Hello, everybody. Um, First of all, thank you for everybody just joining in this session. It's pretty nice to see that a lot of you have submitted your drafts for the media checkpoint, and that itself is like a big achievement that you're juggling between your academic activities and submissions for the scholarship in a very good way. So you'll be receiving the feedback soon. Um, so let's start. Sorry. Yeah, so let's just start today's mentorship session. So just before I start, am I audible to everybody? Can you give me a thumbs up or?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so let me just share my screen. Yes. Can you guys see my screen? Can you just give me a thumbs up or a yes or no if you're able to see my screen? Okay, yeah, it's all right. Cool. Let's start. So anyway, so today's topic is that we're going to cover is creative solutions through design thinking. So just before we start, I thought we'll just do a nice, small, and fun activity, just as an icebreaker, and just to wake you guys up. I I really love geography and stuff, so I'm just going to show you a couple of images, and I just want you guys to just unmute your mics, or if not, just put in the chat. It'd be best if you unmute your mics and just guess the city. So I'm just going to show you some photos. It's actually like aerial views of some cities, like in terms of plans. So just have a look at it and guess the city. So let's start with a pretty easy one. Can you guys guess which city this is? So try to look at some of the major buildings and as a clue.
Is it
Agra.
Agra?
Agra Taj Mahal.
Yes, sir,
Yes,
Agra.
yes, exactly. It is Agra. So it's so you can see this huge density here, and also fun fact that actually Shah Jahan wanted to build a black Taj Mahal on the opposite side as well. So you can see a little bit of that landscaping on the other side as well. Can anybody guess which city this is?
Manhattan.
No, it's not Manhattan. But again, it's a pretty big city, a lot of coastal. Try to. It has got a big harbor, and it's got one very pretty famous building over here as well. Actually, this building is very famous. So
Sydney.
yeah, it is Sydney. Exactly, that's the right answer. So that's the Sydney Opera House over here, and the Harbour Bridge over there. So this building makes this city pretty iconic. Can anybody guess this city?
Rome.
Exactly, it is Rome. It's so easy to identify when you can see the Colosseum and the other ruins right in front of the Colosseum. Can you guys guess this city?
New Delhi?
Paris.
Any more guesses? It is not Paris.
Washington.
It is not Washington.
Venice.
No, it's not Venice. Okay, the clue is that it's an Indian city.
Delhi.
New Delhi.
It is New Delhi. Exactly. It's a famous hexagonal plan of New Delhi. Can you guys guess this one?
Manhattan, New York.
Yes, exactly. The famous Central Park and the big tent city. Okay, so I hope that was such a fun, just a little fun exercise, just to guys, get you guys a little more active into the conversation. Just before I start, a brief introduction about myself. In terms of my studies, I did my bachelor's of architecture in Edit Ritchie from 2012 to 2017, and just after that, I did I worked for a year after I finished my 5-year bachelor's over there, and during my bachelor's and after I finished my bachelor's, I did a lot of internships exploring a lot of aspects of design, um, especially into architecture. I did a lot of graphic design. I worked with some companies like Uber. I freelanced in motion design, animation, and also for a short time, I was also working on short film movie making as well. So in that 1 year, I just got to understand that my actual passion and interest was still in architecture. So I decided to do my master's from University of New South Wales in Sydney, which I just completed last year. After that, now I've been mainly doing three things. So I work as an architect full time. I've been working from the last from 2018, so almost 3 years now, and I tutor usually on the weekends and also sometimes on the weekdays at the university. And this year, I also started volunteering with an organization as well. Um, So now getting into the main topic of this presentation, that is, which is what is design and how can we approach and use design thinking in our day-to-day life and also to solve actual problems. So just going into the dictionary definition of design, it says it's a plan or drawing produced to show the look and function of or workings of a building, garment, or other objects before it's made. Now, this definition for design is very basic, but what to take away from this is two highlighted words: look and function. So, design deals with not only the look of a product, but also how it works, how it can actually solve a problem. So, a more better definition for design is a plan for the construction of an object or a system to solve a problem. So design always aims to solve a problem. Unlike music or art, design is always trying to solve a problem for a user, for a community, for a business, for any sort of clientele. Just for an example, a guy called Phil Knight wanted to start a shoe company, and then he hired a graphic designer called Caroline to design a logo for him. And now that that logo is a worldwide a brand and sort of a sensation. So like if you have a shirt that you sell for 100 rupees, you put this logo on that shirt, suddenly it becomes 500 rupees because of the image or the sort of movement that this logo has created for that brand. Now the question comes to, what does design thinking actually involve? So design thinking is basically it's a philosophy and a set of tools that help you to solve problems creatively. So you use your own sort of background and philosophy. You use a set of tools and you come up with an active solution to a problem. Now, how do we do that? It's pretty easy. It's easier said than done. So there's these 4 steps that you usually is taught in major design schools, and it's a very good sort of step-by-step way to approach design thinking and problem solving through design. So they go by the first being empathizing, second being defining, ideating, prototyping, and testing. So let's just look at um, each of these in a little more detail. So what do you actually mean by empathizing? So empathizing actually means to put yourself in the shoes of the user, understanding the user, like who's the user, like what is their background, like why are you making such a product for a user, and what is their actual problem, what are the challenges that they're facing. So once you've sort of understood your client, your community, or the person you're trying to solve a problem for, you take all your findings from the previous step and you define the exact problem, and you understand, you try to understand what is the user's needs and what are the exact insights that you have found from all your analysis, from interacting with the different users. Then once you got and defined the exact problem, it's the time where you come up with ideas. And this is like the sort of phase where people, you might have seen in movies, or in documentaries, you see people discussing about a lot of ideas, putting sticky notes everywhere, writing down ideas, drawing stuff. This is that phase when you've realized, okay, this is the problem, and this is how my client is, or this is how my user is. Now I'll take all that information and come up with ideas to solve the problem. So while coming with ideas, it's important that you don't dismiss any ideas at first. So you should write down all your crazy ideas. You shouldn't think about the practicality just yet, and you should set some hard points. Now you may ask, like, what is a hard point? So this is a terminology that's used in a lot of design schools, like for graphic design, even architecture, even product design. So I'll just give an example of a simple design of a bicycle. So, so imagine that you're designing a bicycle. So I just want you guys to just look at this picture of a bicycle and think of some things in this bicycle that cannot change, that has to stay as it is. Does anybody have any idea what it is?
Could you please repeat the question?
So in this bicycle, there are some parts of the bicycle that have to remain as it is. You can't, put it in the wrong place. They have to stay at the same height. They have to remain the same size. Do you, can you guess what all those parts are?
The chain we're placing where it is rotating, and
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
yes,
So you were saying it's a chain, right?
yes, a chain and this one
Yeah. What else?
handles must
Exactly.
be there.
Yep. Yep. The handle should be at the same height. If you change
Wheels.
Wheels.
exactly the
Difference
wheels,
between
yes, exactly the wheels as well. Wheels cannot change. So if you put the wheels at the wrong height, you can't use the product at all. So in this sketch, you can see, like, I've just marked it over here. So for example, the center of the wheels and the wheel dimensions cannot change. The height of the handlebar cannot change. Like if you change that, then the cycle is not usable. Like, the height of the seat can be adjustable, but the height to which it can be adjusted, maximum and minimum height, has to stay the same. As you told, the chains have to be at the same height, the same size as well. So once you define that, you know what you can change and what you cannot change. So for example, so this part, for example, can change. It can be any other shape. It can be straight, it can be curved, just it has to be structurally stable. So once you define these points that cannot change, those are the hard points. So then you can sort of be flexible with the other parts. So once that's defined, you can come up with multiple design options for a bicycle. So in all these bicycle options, you see the handles and the hard points that I showed you before have not changed, but all the other parts have changed a little bit, like the shape of the structural system in between, or you add a little bit of mud guard, or you add a little bit of addition into the place where the chain is. But the fundamental aspects of the bicycle have still remained the same. So what I'm trying to conclude with this is, you should have ideas, and you should have some hard points for any kind of design that you're suggesting, which will result in a possible solution. And once you have a solution, what you need to do is you have to prototype and test these ideas. So like for example, like in when we design buildings or suggest architectural ideas, we make models, we make mock-ups, we draw images of the buildings to show the user how it will feel like and how it look like. And and if all of that's not possible, the other best way is to just go back to the community or go back to the user and tell them your idea and see how their feedback is. So in this stage, it's how well you can communicate your ideas to the user. So it can be through writing, it can be through images, it can be through videos. There's a lot of options at this stage. Now let's just try that out with a simple design exercise. Now, can you guys guess where this map is? Unless
NIT
everybody
Trichy?
exactly,
NIT?
it's an Trichy. Yeah, it is exactly an Trichy. So if you've been on campus, you would have realized, or at least when I was on campus, we had a lot of, because the campus is so big and it gets pretty hot in the summer. You had to walk a lot, and it'll be walking across campus was a pretty hard hard task, I would say, especially when it gets super hot and there's not a lot of trees and shade and stuff. So what we're trying to solve is or our design statement is, how can we make it easier to walk or commute on the campus? So let's just get some ideas for the first step. So let's understand these questions. Who's the user? Like, so who's the people walking on the campus, and who are we making this for, and what is the exact problem? Can you guys just give a shot at this?
Would
Any
be
ideas?
students and the professors. They are the ones
Exactly.
who should.
Yep. Are they the only ones? Students, faculty,
No,
then?
the one works in
Whoever the
canteen.
staff working there.
Yep.
The one who works in canteen. There are many
Yes.
people who work for canteen.
Yes. What about visitors? Do you think even they come under this? Like, what if your parents are visiting the campus? Do they also come under this?
Yeah, they have guest houses.
Yes, no, but in case so if somebody is new and who's coming to United to see it for the first time, will also want to walk around the campus just to see the campus. So even they are part of this user base. But what do you think is what is the exact problem over here?
Traveling large distances, getting
Traveling
tired,
large distances, yes, that's one problem.
energy is lost, time sometimes.
Yes, time lost.
And vehicles were banned. Usage of vehicles were banned in the campus premises.
Yes, correct. That's also a problem. Yes. Actually, let's just write this down. So the users are the faculty. Actually, that's just said students and faculty. And staff and visitors. Okay, so now we're trying to define the problem. So some suggestions that you have told us, yes, we are having a loss of time. Then you guys told, yes, it gets very hot. So yes. What else were the suggestions? Could you please repeat it?
Campus is very big.
Campus is very big, sort of ties into loss of time as well. So we could, yeah, it is.
Tiredness,
Sorry, can you repeat that?
like tiredness, physical labor, like walking around this tired.
Yep. I think this ties into that as well. Anything else? Any other problems apart from that? Why do you think it's very hot?
Weather issue.
Yes, weather. Obviously, it's hot because of the weather. But
There is no cover or shelter to cover them.
yes, that's a. And what actually gives good cover from the sun?
Trees.
So
Planting
from
of more
winter,
trees.
Yes. So what is the problem then?
less trees.
Less number of trees.
Yes, lack of trees. Lack of trees. So that's good. So now we have come up with like three sort of defining statements of problems that we have identified. Now the next stage is where you think of ideas of how we can solve each of these problems. So the campus is large, and because of that, you're losing a lot of time to commute through it. So what is something that can help you commute on a large campus and save you time? Any ideas?
Mode of transport, cycle
Oh
or
yes,
vehicle or
yeah, that's a very good idea. So modes of transport. So it's basically some sort of like public transport that can help students commute.
Like battery vehicles.
Battery vehicles, amazing. Yeah, you guys are having really good ideas. Now, what is the solution to to the climate getting very hot?
Plantation
How
of
can
more trees and making shelters at
yes,
very crowded places.
addition of trees and shelters. Now at this stage, we can still,
Better,
yeah. What is it?
better navigation or signboards.
Oh, that's a very good idea. Better navigation. So how do you think students usually commute? Like where all do students usually go on a day-to-day basis on the campus? So they are usually at the hostel. Where all do they go from the hostel?
Canteens.
Yes, they go to the canteen. Where else do they go to?
Lecture halls.
Lecture halls. Yes. So I'm
Sports
just trying.
centers.
Yep, sports centers. So I'm just trying to put like a very crazy idea over here. Like, so what if there was a way in which you could get the shortest distance from all these three? So we're not thinking if the idea works or not. We're just like, trying to get out all our crazy ideas over here. How can we get, the best route or the shortest route from like your hostel to your lecture hall?
In design like that.
building the hostel
Yeah,
at
yeah,
equidistant from all points.
yep, yes. Building new hostel closer to lecture hall.
But it may not be work. It cannot
Yeah,
work out.
it may not work out. I'm not saying that all of these ideas work out. I'm just trying to get you guys to think and just get out all your ideas. It doesn't. We'll think of if it works or not in the later stage. So now is just the time to just get all the ideas out.
We can group out buildings together. Like if it's a department and near a hostel and near a thing, like set of groups everywhere around in it.
Set of groups or set of building groups. Yep, that's a good idea. Any other ideas?
Maybe bring the canteen to the lecture hall and the hostels.
That's a good idea. Yep, canteen um, or more food spaces. I'll say more eateries. More eateries. Eateries. Near lecture and hostel. Okay, so now we can set hard points. So as we discussed with the bicycle, we need to think of things that cannot or will not usually move. So let's just take idea by idea. For example, um, for the mode of transport, if we add mode of transport, what would be the ideal mode of transport that can be added? So, for example, as just somebody mentioned, you cannot own your own vehicles like um, cars or bikes. So which in turn suggests that you have to have a more communal mode of transport or a public mode of transport, right? What else do you think is like some things that cannot that some of these ideas which cannot work due to some hard points?
Buildings can't be changed or cannot be built immediately.
Sorry, I didn't. Can you please repeat that?
Places of buildings can't be changed. So, or like we can't build buildings immediately.
Exactly. So buildings take time and they take a lot of resources. So you cannot easily demolish existing buildings. So especially when they're big buildings like hostels and messes and all that, you cannot easily demolish them as they take a lot of time to rebuild and they take a lot of resources and people to design and build again. So which again is a hard point. Now, what do you think in terms of this third idea, addition of trees and shelters? What are the sort of practical aspects or the limitations in terms of just adding trees to NIT Trichy?
But maintenance of trees also will take a part.
Yes, tree maintenance, not especially not easy in a place like Trichy where the weather is not that good. Another question: do you think all types of trees will grow in Trichy?
What?
Do you think we have to think of what type of trees to plant? Do you think all types of trees will grow?
No, it depends on the climate of at that place.
Yes, so we have to be conscious of what tree species will work. So we have to think about what is the tree species that can work as well. So not all types of trees will work. So you have to so that gives you sort of an idea of okay, addition of trees and shelters is a good idea, but not all trees can work. But if you add trees, you have the extra sort of responsibility or of maintaining trees, which means watering them, taking care of them, which again needs more time, more resources. So
And it takes more time. It takes time for a tree to grow. It takes years.
yes, time as well. Time it takes a sufficient amount of time for a tree to grow pretty big so that it can give you good shade. So, but what about shelters? Shelters can be built quickly.
It's a big campus, so we can't place shelters everywhere. It's not easy.
Yes, that
But
is a good point.
shelters in the sense will mostly take the shelters just making a roof, temporary roof with the sheets of metal. It also maybe
Yeah,
it doesn't support the weather in mainly in summer.
Yes. So basically, if you're putting a shelter there, you have to be conscious of the design of the shelter. You have to think about how tall will the shelter be, how wide will it be. If it's too narrow, it won't give you enough shade. If it's not put in the right angle, the sun will come through the shelter. So basically, the design of the shelter has to be considered according to the to the climate.
And the occupancy of the place too.
Yeah, climate. You can put occupancy as well. So if you're designing a shelter, the hard points for you will be the climate and the occupancy. That will totally govern how you will design that shelter. Now, what about this last idea? The idea of having more canteens and eateries near the lecture hall and hostel. So or adding canteens to the or to the ground floor of hostels or something like that.
Estimating
Transportation
the
of food.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Transportation of food. Sorry.
okay.
You go.
There can only be a limited amount of quantity that can be sold, and
Yeah. Yeah. What do you mean limited amount of quantity? You mean in terms of food?
like if you open it there, cleaning would be there. Like people might not drop it in the dustbin, and someone should take care
Maintenance
of
of the
the maintenance.
slab
Oh yeah,
garbage.
maintenance. Yes.
Transportation also. Transportation of food.
Yes, to maintenance, transportation. Yes.
As we are building shelters, we have to build the parking places for the shelters too. That is the main. That will be the main issue.
Parking. Yes.
Estimating the number of students who would be there in each place, so it might lead to food wastage as well.
Yes, can be. Yep, that can be food wastage. So right now, what we have sort of done is we have not just suggested an idea. We've gone one step further. We have thought about how sort of what is the practical aspects of that idea, and what is the limiting factor. So in this exercise, you can see that for example, if you're writing an essay on this topic, you have defined different aspects of how you have tested your ideas. Like for example, if you just suggested that you want to add a mode of transport to improve the walkability or the commuting on campus, that it has to be a form of transport which can take more students together, like a form of public transport, because students cannot own their own vehicles. But if you're suggesting something like building a new hostel, that idea is likely not to work, because buildings take more time and resources, and that will have to change the whole planning of the whole campus, which is very hard to change because we have already built so much around the campus. It's much more easier to do if you're building a new campus. It's harder if it's in an old campus like NHG. But then,
And even for the new campus also, there may not be the availability of the land space
yeah,
for the construction.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So these ideas just help you summarize on the practical aspects of ideas. So we have suggested some ideas over here that may not work, like building a new hostel or grouping buildings, like. But then it's good to set hard points even for these ideas, because they can help you develop on such like smaller ideas like shelter design or something like that. So for me, what sounds most feasible in these ideas are the last ones, where you can add more trees, more shelters, and even the idea of adding more eateries to the lecture hall and hostel could be feasible if we could maintain all these three ideas, which will need more resources and people, but it's still possible. Now, how do you think we can test these ideas? What is the way, like, let's take, how can you test, for example, having electric vehicles to transport students?
And we can build cycle rentals there in the campus.
Yes, cycle rentals. But so before building it, how do you think it can, how can you test the cycle rental?
Actually, in the campus, so many final years were leaving the cycles in the campus and leaving. The task force of NITT has taken a thing to repair those cycles and sell it for the newcomers. So rather than selling, they can use the rentals, which can minimize the number of cycles and can raise a fund to the campus also.
Yep. So that's actually a new idea. But then how you're actually testing it is because you're reducing the funding of actually buying new vehicles. You're using the existing vehicles and just maintaining and refurbing them to sort of test your idea. So you can basically refurb old products, which is a good way to test ideas. Rather than buying new products, you can just refurb. Refurbing. Refurbing. Sorry, did you say something? Did anybody say an idea? How do you think we can test growing trees or shelters?
By creating a miniature of that and trying to make that miniature to experience the outside weather situation.
Yep. So you're basically trying to create a small version of a mock-up. Create a mock-up, or we can call it a sample, like a sample space. So you just take a small part of the campus and you just develop that part instead of developing the whole campus. Just test if does this tree species work, or does this shelter design work, and you see how students are interacting, if they enjoy the space. So one idea which I can add. So after you test this sample space, you can set up a survey. You can set up a survey so that whoever using the space, they can just fill up the survey and give feedback. So survey and feedback.
And we can use some simulation software also.
Yes, that's a good idea. These days, people are using a lot of VR, XR, just VR, AR to give you an idea of the space without actually building the space. Saves you a lot of time and resources. Do you guys have any other ideas of how you can test the space? So like, for example, how can you test better navigation?
For these battery vehicles, like one can like rent one vehicle and test it for one department like that. Then how students are using it, how frequently they're using bus facilities, are they going for it? We can do a survey like that.
Yep. Again, yeah. So it's a combination of survey and survey feedback, and buying one product
And
instead of buying the whole thing.
And for navigation, we can use either Google satellite, or we can use drones.
Yep.
For better navigation. So we can use drones to navigate the campus, and we can create some mild navigation points.
Yep. So you're creating like data points from which you can derive data of people passing through the space using Google Maps or drones and stuff. So I'm just trying to generalize all of these. So these are all very good ideas in which you can actually prototype and test your ideas. Now, not all of them are easy to do, but things like surveys and feedbacks are easier to do than creating a mock-up or sample space. But that depends on the type of project you're trying to do. If it's a smaller project, you can create easier mock-ups. But then if it's like largest projects like building a building or building a space, it takes more time. So that is just I thought it was just a fun exercise, just to take an actual problem on campus and develop different problems, defining the actual problem, and coming with different ideas, then setting the hard points, and then thinking of ideas of how we can actually test it. So this is like a very good way in which you can actually take a good idea and sort of build it up into an actual real product that can actually happen. So if you have an actual problem, if you have a problem that you're trying to solve, even through your essays for the community on campus, and for the society as well, this is a good way in which you can sort of systematically try to solve each problems through design thinking. So this is the same steps that they even use in big design schools as well. I know, like, they may take each step and go a little more, add a little more complexity to do it, but from the bird's eye view, from the top view, this is what they do as well. So let's just go back to the slides. Full screen. So we did all of them, empathized, and we found out more of the users. We defined the problems. We came up with all the ideas. We set the hard points, and then we thought about ideas of how we can prototype and test it. So this is basically how how design thinking works in the most fundamental ways. So I thought it'd be a good idea to just go through some of the submitted questions that that I received. Now I've not covered all of the questions. Suggest I think I've just covered 5, and I'll just leave some time where you can ask any other questions that you have. So apologies if your questions not been covered. I just thought I'll put in some questions that are related to the topic, and then in the end you can ask me any other questions that you have as well. So the first question that we had was, how could we fabricate a custom design with simple tools? That's by not using 3D printers and similar advanced tools. With reference to fabricating a design with simple tools, is there anything that we need to keep in mind while designing the part? So this step sort of comes back to the last step that we did, like prototyping and testing. 3D printing is an amazing tool. I was just 3D printing something 2 days ago. It's a great tool to test out your ideas, but not everybody has access to these tools. So a better way is to actually make things by hand, like draw stuff, make charts, surveys. Feedbacks are still a very good tool, to come up with your to give some validation to your custom design. So the most fundamental tool is using just a pen and a paper and drawing it. So these drawings are not artistic drawings. They don't have to be pretty. They just have to show or convey your idea. Apart from that, what else could you use? You could, build some stuff with a small set of tools, like, a little bit of wood, hammers, and all that. But other than that, I would just suggest, just using simple tools like some colors, pens, papers. And if you're not into that, you could even just write about it. Making videos about it is also a very good idea as well. So let's just go to the next question. So the question was, to find a solution for a problem, either in a community or a society, you need resources apart from the internet. For example, contacting an expert like a programmer or doctor, etc. How to get these resources during this pandemic? This is a very, very interesting question. Actually, it's a pretty good question, and it's a pretty unprecedented question because we have never had a time like this before. And I'd like to acknowledge you guys for doing all your academic stuff and stuff at home and the scholarship at such a tough time. But we have to stick with whatever resources we have. So the best way, again, to contact somebody at this time is, I feel, is only possible through the phone or through the internet. You could maybe contact people who have some close connections to your family, so that you get a little more valid responses. But contacting someone through writing or through phone or through the internet is the best possible way to contact people right now. I think that's what everybody's doing around the world. All businesses, all universities are doing the same thing. And now the best way, if you want to contact people in person, to contact a person, is through the internet as well. But the other way, to get resources is not only through the internet. You can definitely go through a lot of books, surveys, to get more authentic information. And and whenever you get such information from any source, it's always important to just write down where you got that information from, so that you can go back. If you're using that information in your essay, you can cite it properly. And if any of you guys have any problem in citing, it's pretty easy. Like programs like Google Docs and Word and all have it inbuilt in them. You just have to type in the book's name and the author, it will cite it automatically for you. So let's go to the next question. The question: when is the right time to do an internship? Also, what are the ways through which we can get research internships in colleges like IISc? Okay, I don't know how exactly you'll get an internship in colleges like IISc. I think one of our other mentors, Ashwini, would be the better person to ask this question. But I can answer the first part of the question, that when is the right time to do an internship. And I always feel the right time to do an internship is right now, because I've always done at least an internship every year of my undergrad, from my first year to my fifth year. That's when I tried different things that I was interested in, including graphic design. I tried some movie making, I tried animation, all through internships. And mostly, I have to be honest, I always worked for free, but I got a lot in return, just to understand if I like it or not. So if you're interested in anything, the right time to do an internship is right now. Like if you're in your first year, it's right now. Whenever you get a break or your weekends, that's the best time to do an internship. But getting internship in colleges, I feel it might be a little harder. It's maybe a little easier once you've finished your course, or maybe a couple of years into your bachelor's. Actually, so next question is: can every problem be solved through design thinking? It's it's a very good question, and I feel sometimes the best solution is not to intervene. So just a good example will be, recently I was on site with a client, where he actually wanted to take down the old building and build and come up with a new building. And we just went back to our office and went through all the data and the analysis, and we found that it's better for him and the environment to keep the building as it is and just to refurbish the interiors. So sometimes doing less gives more benefit. So it's not always things that have or solutions that have more impact or that look bigger that always solve the problem. Sometimes doing less is more. So sometimes even doing nothing is more. You just have to leave them as it is. That it might be working very well. So you should always keep in mind, to just go initially. The empathizing step is a very important step. You need to understand the condition, the user, and if you think that the situation is good as it is and doesn't need any intervention, that is fine as well. The next question is how to convert an idea into a real product. So this ties again back into the 4 steps that we discussed. So if you follow those 4 steps systematically, it's a very good idea, or a good system in which you can convert an idea into a real product. So yeah, you get your ideas, you think of hard points or practical issues that can that sort of stop your ideas in some level, and then you kind of continue into a real product by testing it and prototyping it. Okay, so do you guys have any other questions apart from this? I didn't cover all the questions that were submitted to me, so if you want to ask any other questions, please go ahead.
Can you please say about mentioning citations in the essay again?
So I think this citation, so basically whenever you are taking any information that is not your intellectual property or not your idea, you have to cite where you got that information from. So for example, if I'm writing the essay in which, writing an essay about what I just covered in this presentation about how we are trying to improve commuting in the campus, and I cite that, I cite that, for example, in IIT Madras. For example, I read in a book or something that in IIT Madras, they have electric bikes to commute through campus. I'm just telling a hypothetical condition, and I've read it from a report or a magazine. I cannot just write that statement as a standalone in my essay. I have to write where exactly I have got that information from. So now there are different ways in which you can cite the essays. There's a Harvard system, there's a Chicago system. So these systems, you can just, it's very easy, you can just Google them to understand what exactly the system is. And they are ingrained in Google Docs and Word. So the most important thing is, like, wherever you find an information through a website or through a book or through a report, or even if it's quoted by someone, you should definitely cite from where you got it, when that book was published, who's the author. Sometimes you will need to look at what volume and what edition of that book is as well. Yeah, so yeah, I think
Okay, sir.
there's just been added in the chat. You can find some more information about citing more documents and resources that you use for your essay as well. And I think it would have been it'll be good if you Dhruv must have covered it, one of the other mentors, in his presentation, so you can just go back to that presentation and have a look at it as well. Any other questions?
Hi. So
Hello.
let's say that we have an idea that we want to try out. Let it be a startup or an app or anything.
Yeah.
Do we have like a community officially in NIT Trichy which we can join and we can pitch in our idea to anyone really, who would help us out or who can help us form a team?
I think definitely there will be. So, like when I was on campus, there was definitely groups who were discussing, who were very encouraging to, discuss ideas, and even seniors who are very willing to give their input to see if your idea works out or not. So for example, like one of my friends started a 3D printing business. Actually, he was an architect and he started a 3D printing business right after campus. And he had always worked with the robotics community on campus, and they were always pretty helpful with him. And he ended up building a printer by himself, writing the whole code and everything on campus in his final year, just to test if his idea works. And once he was able to do that, he sort of carried it forward and started his own company once he graduated. So what I think the key takeaway is that you should find out where your idea fits in best, which community on campus will help you help you to take better decisions regarding your idea.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions, guys? Doesn't have to be regarding the topic, can be anything regarding the essays or okay. So if that's all, then if you have any other questions. Okay, so I can just quickly, yeah. So I thought I can just quickly explain a little more in depth about citation and plagiarism. So any essay or document that you submit can be easily checked online to get what percentage of the essay has been taken from another source. So plagiarism is very easy to detect. So when you've taken information from somewhere and not cited it properly, it comes not cited it at all properly. It comes forward as plagiarism, or copying somebody else's intellectual property. So it just comes back again to the topic of citing anything that you take from any other resource apart from your own ideas. So any other factual information or data or even a quote from someone, you have to exactly state from where you got it. And if that's not done, the program will easily detect that that the information is not for yours, and it just the whole essay doesn't come forward as authentic. So that's what plagiarism means, and that happens when you don't cite or don't cite properly in regards to your essay.
How to cite? In the sense, at the last we have to leave the links where we had taken those content.
Yeah. So and according to JSPF rules, plagiarism is taken very seriously. So make sure that when you submit your future final essays, you make sure that everything is cited properly. So it's very easy to understand. Just go through the links that has been posted on the chat, and make sure that you cite everything properly. And if you have any other questions, definitely send us a mail at the mail ID that's mentioned on the screen. And you can contact me if you have any other questions on my Instagram or on my LinkedIn. Please feel free to contact me. I'll try to respond whenever I'm logged in. Otherwise, thank you guys for giving us sparing time to just have a good chat about design thinking, and I hope you had fun.
I have a doubt.
Yes.
Regarding the panelist interview, could you please explain how interviews will take place and what type of interviews we will have?
You mean the panelist interview at the end, right? I think
yes, Shiva, at the end.
No, I think Shiva will be in a better place to answer this question.
Questions around the interview and how that would look like, as well as how you can prepare for it, all of that will be covered at our next mentorship session. So that's going to be on June 13, which is a Sunday again. It's going to be by our fourth mentor, Shreya Suryanarayanan. So she will be going through exclusively about interviews. So you can definitely join us there. But also in the meantime, if you have if you're curious about how to go about it, so I hope all of you know about the JSPF YouTube channel. So we have a lot of videos from our previous mentorship sessions, like from across the years. So there is one specifically by a mentor called Vrinda Somjit, who also talks about interviews. So you can definitely go through that as well.
Thank you.
All right. So if that's it, thank you guys again for joining the session. If you have any other questions, just email to the link or the ID that I mentioned, or you can just contact me on the handles that I posted.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And thank you so much, Viswesh. That was an excellent session, very, very useful, and has given a very simple framework that students can go through to tackle their project, for the community essay, as well as for the society essay, just general problem solving. So I really hope that students will use that framework and just take the time to fill out each of the column and think about whichever problem that you're basically picking up, and try to come up with a holistic solution for that. So thank you so much, Viswesh. That was an excellent session. And folks, so we have put a link on the chat for some feedback. Please let us know how the session was, what are some things that we could improve, as well as, like I mentioned, we have our final mentorship session on June 13, which is going to focus exclusively on interviews. So please do attend that. And yeah, Viswesh, as well as the other mentors, are currently giving out feedback for your mid-year checkpoint submissions as well. Please go through them. Try and incorporate that feedback so that you can improve your essays, as well as there will be a session soon where Viswesh, as well as the other mentors, will sort of try to have a one-on-one chat with you to help you improve the rest of the application. Remember that the final application deadline is on July 21. That's less than 2 months away. So if you have any aspect of the application that you haven't started, now would be the time for you to start. Please make sure that you go ahead and get started on things. Email us, like Viswesh said, ahead with any questions that you have, and we are usually quick to respond. So please let us know. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and we will see you again, hopefully on June 13th. And yeah, thank you.